47 days, 5,533 tons of toxic gas every single day. 80,000 people forced from their homes. And tonight, Mayon Volcano is still glowing red against the Philippine sky. What terrifies scientists isn't the lava you can see, it's what's rising beneath it. Seismographs have not gone quiet, the ground is still swelling. Sulfur dioxide emissions have surged nearly 28 times higher than they were just weeks ago. That isn't the signal of a volcano winding down, it's the signature of fresh magma forcing its way upward from deep underground reservoirs. History shows that when this mountain reaches patterns like these, it doesn't fade quietly, it collapses. On January 6, 2026, alert levels were raised to level 3. Within hours, pyroclastic density currents began racing down the slopes. Entire villages inside the 6-kilometer danger zone were emptied. Military checkpoints sealed the perimeter. But instead of weakening after the initial burst, the data began accelerating. Gas emissions shattered 15-year records. The lava dome at the summit has already grown larger than it was before the catastrophic 1984 collapse. The question now is no longer when will it stop. The question is, are we watching the peak or the warning before something far worse? The crisis did not erupt all at once. It escalated, step by measurable step. When Alert Level 3 was raised on January 6, 2026, the first 24 hours were already intense. Monitoring stations recorded nearly 100 pyroclastic density currents in a single day, surging down gullies along the southeastern flank of Mayon Volcano. Ash began falling over nearby communities. Thousands evacuated, believing the disruption would last only days. But by week 2, the pattern shifted from intense to alarming. Sulfur dioxide emissions climbed beyond the 195 tons per day baseline recorded in early January. Instead of declining after the initial burst, the pattern scientists hoped to see the readings increased. Pyroclastic flows began traveling farther downslope. The volcano was not releasing pressure, it was accumulating it. By week 3, the mountain itself began to physically transform. Global positioning instruments and electronic tilt meters detected inflation across the eastern and southeastern sectors. The ground was swelling outward as magma rose from deep underground reservoirs. Evacuation numbers surpassed 15,000. Authorities extended danger zones beyond the permanent 6-kilometer radius in the most active sectors. Week 4 broke earlier projections. Displacement surged beyond 25,000 people. Sulfur dioxide emissions crossed 1,000 tons per day. Comparisons shifted from recent eruptions to historical escalation patterns. By weeks 5 and 6, global attention intensified. Evacuees reached 80,000. Sulfur dioxide peaked at 5,533 tons per day, the highest level recorded in 15 years. International research institutions formally requested monitoring data. 47 days into the crisis, one reality stands clear. The eruption is not stabilizing, it is intensifying. There is one figure that has volcanologists losing sleep: sulfur dioxide. At 5,533 tons per day, emissions from Mayon Volcano have reached their highest level in 15 years. Just over a month earlier, instruments were measuring roughly 195 tons per day. That kind of surge is not random fluctuation, it is a geological signal. When magma rises from deep chambers beneath a volcano, dissolved gases escape first. Sulfur dioxide is one of the clearest indicators of how much fresh, molten rock is moving upward. The higher the concentration, the greater the magma supply feeding the eruption. In simple terms, the gas is not just pollution drifting into the sky. It is the volcano revealing what is happening kilometers underground, and right now, what it is revealing is deeply unsettling. Sustained emissions at this level suggest an open conduit system. Magma is not trapped beneath a sealed dome. It is actively circulating continuously, degassing, and being replenished from deeper reservoirs. The eruption is not exhausting a limited batch of molten rock. It is being resupplied. The gas data does not stand alone. Seismic instruments are detecting an average of 47 volcanic earthquakes every day. Each tremor represents magma and volcanic gases forcing their way through fractures in the rock. Ground deformation measurements confirm ongoing inflation, particularly along the eastern and southeastern sectors of the volcano. Even rockfall events have surged, with hundreds recorded in a single 24-hour period. Taken together, these numbers tell a single, unavoidable story. Pressure is not decreasing. It is building, steadily, persistently, and without clear signs of slowing down. High above the evacuated communities, the most dangerous structure on Mayon Volcano is not the flowing lava, it is the lava dome. The dome now measures approximately 3.2 million cubic meters of unstable volcanic material, perched more than 2,400 meters above sea level. From a distance it appears solid, almost immovable, but a lava dome is anything but stable. It forms when thick, viscous magma pushes toward the surface, but cannot flow freely. Instead of streaming down the slopes, it piles up at the crater, creating a growing mass of fractured rock on the outside and superheated molten material within. Beneath that, hardened shell pressure builds continuously. Every new surge of magma weakens the structure further. History makes the current size deeply unsettling. In 1984, Mayon's lava dome reached roughly 2.8 million cubic meters before collapsing catastrophically. When it failed, it unleashed pyroclastic density currents that raced approximately 7 kilometers down the mountain, destroying everything in their path. Entire communities were forced to evacuate for months. Today's dome is already larger than it was before that collapse, and it continues to grow. Seismic readings show harmonic tremors, consistent with sustained magma movement beneath the summit. Ground deformation is accelerating directly below the dome's base. These are not isolated signals. They form a recognizable sequence, one this volcano has followed before. A lava dome is not a protective cap sealing the eruption. It is a load-bearing structure under constant stress. If it fails suddenly, the collapse would not be gradual. It would be explosive, instantaneous, and unforgiving. Behind every data point stands a person. More than 80,000 residents have been displaced since the eruption intensified at Mayon Volcano. Entire barangays inside the permanent 6-kilometer danger zone now sit silent. Homes are locked. Livestock pens stand empty. Fields that once supported generations lie untended beneath drifting ash. Evacuation centers across Albay province are operating far beyond intended capacity. Gymnasiums built for a few hundred people now shelter thousands. Families sleep shoulder to shoulder on thin mats laid over concrete floors. Privacy has vanished. Normal routines have dissolved. For children, the disruption is deeper than missed classes. More than 47,000 students have been out of school since the crisis began. Distance learning has been introduced, but unstable connectivity and crowded shelter conditions make consistent study nearly impossible. Provincial health workers report a dramatic rise in anxiety among young evacuees. Nightmares, sleep disturbances, and fear of darkness are becoming common. For farmers, each sunrise brings a different calculation: crops left unharvested, planting cycles interrupted, livestock relocated. Agricultural losses have climbed into the hundreds of millions of pesos. Coconut groves, abaca fields, and rice paddies represent more than income. They represent identity and continuity. The longer displacement lasts, the harder recovery becomes. Government relief operations continue to distribute food packs, hygiene kits, and medical support. Water trucks arrive daily. Mobile health teams rotate through shelters, yet survival is not the same as stability. 47 days of uncertainty reshapes a community. It erodes savings. It strains relationships. It replaces planning with waiting. And for 80,000 people, waiting has become the only thing they can control, while the mountain decides everything else. The current crisis unfolding at Mayon Volcano does not exist in isolation. It stands in the shadow of centuries. In 1714, the volcano unleashed one of the most devastating eruptions in Philippine history. The town of Cagsawa was buried under ash and volcanic debris. Approximately 1,200 people lost their lives. Today, only the bell tower remains, a silent reminder that Mayon's beauty has always carried consequence. The pattern repeated in 1897 when another violent eruption claimed more than 400 lives. Entire communities were once again forced to flee slopes they had carefully cultivated. But it is the 1984 eruption that scientists reference most frequently today. In the weeks before that event, seismic instruments recorded escalating tremors. Ground deformation intensified. A growing lava dome showed signs of instability. Then it collapsed, sending pyroclastic density currents racing kilometers downslope. Evacuations lasted for months. The similarities to current monitoring data are difficult to ignore. Unlike earlier centuries, however, population density has dramatically increased. Today, more than 400,000 people live within a 20-kilometer radius of the crater. What was once a threat to isolated towns is now a potential regional disaster. History does not guarantee repetition, but it reveals patterns, and Mayon's history is not a story of surprise, it is a story of cycles. Scientists monitoring Mayon Volcano are not predicting a single outcome. Instead, they are modeling 3 distinct scenarios, each carrying very different consequences for the tens of thousands of displaced residents. The first scenario offers cautious hope. Sulfur dioxide emissions begin to decline steadily. Seismic activity gradually weakens. Ground deformation stabilizes or reverses. The lava dome continues slow extrusion without catastrophic collapse. Under this pathway, authorities could implement phased returns to communities near the outer boundaries of the danger zone. This pattern would resemble prolonged but controlled eruptive behavior seen in past events. However, current data does not yet support this trend. The second scenario extends the crisis. Emissions remain elevated. The dome continues growing but does not fail suddenly. Pyroclastic flows persist at moderate intensity. Evacuations stretch into months. Agricultural cycles are missed. Economic strain deepens. Casualties are avoided through strict enforcement of exclusion zones, but the social and financial cost compounds over time. This scenario avoids immediate catastrophe but creates a slow-burning humanitarian emergency. The third scenario is the most severe. Rapid dome destabilization triggers sudden collapse. Pyroclastic density currents surge downslope at extreme temperatures and speeds potentially exceeding 1000 degrees Celsius and traveling faster than vehicles can escape. Warning time could be minimal. Regional infrastructure, aviation routes, and multiple provinces could be affected. At this moment, monitoring indicators show pressure continuing to build. Which path unfolds will depend on signals the mountain has not yet fully revealed. The response to the ongoing eruption at Mayon Volcano has moved far beyond routine disaster management. National and provincial authorities are operating at sustained crisis level. More than 2,000 military personnel have been deployed across affected areas. Armed checkpoints enforce the permanent 6-kilometer danger zone, preventing residents from re-entering unstable sectors to retrieve belongings or tend livestock. Army transport vehicles continue relocating families as evacuation boundaries shift. Emergency funding has been released to support food, distribution, medical services, and temporary shelter operations. Tens of thousands of family food packs and hygiene kits have already been delivered. Mobile health teams rotate through overcrowded evacuation centers addressing chronic illnesses, respiratory conditions linked to ash exposure, and rising psychological stress. The agricultural sector is also under emergency coordination. Livestock have been transferred to temporary holding facilities outside high-risk zones. Damage assessments for crops and plantations are ongoing, with losses mounting daily. Infrastructure agencies remain on standby with heavy equipment positioned for rapid debris clearing should ashfall intensify. Aviation authorities have adjusted flight paths near regional airports to account for drifting volcanic plumes. The system is functioning, but sustaining this level of mobilization for weeks or months places immense strain on resources designed for short-term emergencies, not prolonged uncertainty. Tonight, the summit of Mayon Volcano glows against the darkness, a steady pulse of red visible from miles away. Incandescent lava traces thin, bright lines down its slopes. From a distance, it looks almost beautiful, symmetrical, luminous, calm. But beauty can be deceptive. Around the volcano, monitoring instruments never rest. Seismographs continue tracing each tremor beneath the mountain. GPS receivers measure every millimeter of outward swelling. Gas spectrometers sample each surge of sulfur dioxide rising into the atmosphere. The data streams do not pause. Neither does the pressure building underground. 80,000 displaced residents wait inside crowded shelters. Farmers calculate losses that grow with each missed planting cycle. Children fall asleep beneath fluorescent lights, instead of in their own bedrooms. Every morning begins with the same question: has anything changed? So far, the answer remains no. The reservoir is not empty. The dome is not stable. The ground is not finished rising. 47 days have passed. The eruption continues, and the mountain has not yet delivered its final decision. For now, scientists watch, authorities prepare, communities endure, and the silence between eruptions feels thinner than ever. If you want continued updates on the evolving situation at Mayon Volcano, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss critical developments. These events are changing day by day, and we are tracking the data, the science, and the human impact behind every headline. If you found this report informative, press like to support in-depth coverage and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe the eruption is nearing its peak?